enters the body, it has a strong effect on body functions by acting as an it on the brain. Large overdose of cocaine causes convulsions, then death. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings and actions. In his ignorance, Marty took that dare, little knowing the eventual horror that lay in the deadly white powder.
Marty, have you seen the pinking shears I bought last week? Can't seem to find them anywhere. Marty, you don't seem right. I'm worried about you. There's something wrong. I'm going to take you down to Dr. Peters this afternoon for a checkup.
No, I'm all right.
As his body gradually built up intolerance, he needed more and more of the drug.
And our faces, there we go. I think it's for real this time.
I think we are for real.
3 times the charm.
Let's go. Third time is a
Or was
charm.
that 4?
Might
4
have been.
times?
Might have been.
Okay.
It's all good.
I'm already exhausted, but I'm excited.
I'm excited as
For
well.
the topic.
Welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Way Out podcast live with my friend Bridge from Kiss Recovery. She does an amazing podcast. If you have not seen it, if you have not been able to avail yourself of the Kiss Recovery podcast, you must. You must go immediately after this live stream to Kiss Recovery. I will have links out on the Insta post so that you have all of the information to discover an amazing podcast in Kiss Recovery. But we're going to talk about
And audio only. I just want to let your listeners know Bridge was not doing no videos before that. So if you're one of those visual listeners,
my peeps
not that.
and your peeps are the same because we're audio heavy. We've only dipped our proverbial toes in video recently with some video clips. We're going to keep dropping those video clips of the amazing interviews and episodes that we're doing. We're not ready to go full video, my friends.
I'm
Not
excited
yet.
though.
I'm excited as well. So you, Bridge, have an amazing topic to start with. So why don't you tell everybody about this amazing topic?
Okay, well, there's several topics in one.
I love it.
I think the main point of, or the theme I'm excited to discuss here is like those unwritten rules you hear in the 12-step community.
Yeah.
The things that are misconceived and also can be very pushy,
Yep.
scary,
Yep.
and risky.
Yep.
And where I sit today, I would say that my perception and with growth and healing and change, I've realized where I would like to have a conversation where those things we can have a discussion and bring solutions to.
I love it. I love it. I feel like this topic and the topics within this topic that we're about to bring up is one that stirs some controversy. You may talk about this topic amongst your recovery friends, but not in the meetings proper. And I think anybody that's been exposed to certainly 12-step recovery for any length of time probably has either heard about this or experienced it in one way or the other.
I'm so thankful this person, Fit Recovery. So the title of this video is Why I Fired My AA Sponsor. I'm very happy this person was brave enough to put this out there.
Yeah.
Because it's the awareness that there's many folks that agree with what he's saying. And this gives me and you this opportunity where I have found my recovery foundation in the 12 steps, as well as other paths,
Yes.
to bring some light to it.
Yeah.
And it's important to talk about it so others who didn't know, I didn't know what I didn't know before,
Yes.
and the people before me that pass on similar things he's talking about, they didn't know what they didn't know,
Absolutely.
right? So, but we gotta talk about it.
You got it.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I skipped forward to hopefully one of the main ones. I'm gonna turn that volume up so hopefully anyone listening can
He
hear.
told me that maybe I needed to go do some more research out there, meaning that was a code phrase for maybe I needed to go out and see if I could control my drinking again. And he would often say these types of weird things that I was really wondering, like, should he be saying that? Maybe you're just not convinced. Maybe you should go do some more research. Basically recommending that I should go, see if I could control my drinking and then come back to him once I failed. But, a lot of people won't even survive relapses like that when they have some sobriety, some recovery, and then they return to active drinking. So anyways, the straw that broke the camel's back was when I had not been to AA for a long time. I had been in and out of the rooms trying to do it different ways, my way, AA, NA, alternating between all these different hybrids. And my sponsor called me up and asked me if I wanted to go to a meeting. I said, sure, why not? It had been a month.
Okay, hang on. He's going to go into another
That's
topic.
it. Now he's starting to transition, right?
Let's stick to this first one.
Indeed. So I know where that comes from. So the controlled drinking, why don't you go out and try some controlled drinking, comes right out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is a line right in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think it is there is a solution, I may be wrong, that makes that recommendation. If you are not convinced that you are one of us, maybe go out and try some controlled drinking. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was written in the 1930s, and there is a lot of universal truth in that original text, and there's some things that maybe don't quite hold up as well in 2025 as maybe they did in 1930s. I've heard it a lot in the rooms. Maybe you should go out and do some more research. Maybe you should do some more, try some controlled drinking. And I get where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. Because I was not convinced that I had a problem until my drinking got to a point where it was impossible to deny that my alcohol use was unmanageable. In this instance, the big book is talking about, hey, here's what our experience is about what alcoholism looks like. And they do a pretty good job describing the allergy and the obsession, right? Yeah. So now they're saying, okay, we've described the allergy, which is, for me, once I have one, I cannot predict how many I'm going to have after that, when I'm going to stop. And the obsession is, even when I'm not drinking, it's all I can think about. Right? And so they've described the allergy, they've described the obsession, and after reading that, one might think, well, that's not me.
Oh, yes.
That's not me.
That was Bridge.
Right.
That's not me.
That's not me. I mean, I get it. I understand it. I understand the obsession. I get what you're saying intellectually. And I understand the concept of the allergy. It's an abnormal reaction to a substance. Okay? I get that. That's not me either. So, the big book is saying, now that you know this, maybe you need to try some controlled drinking to see if this is you. Research.
Like this
Right?
guy's saying.
And so, for me, I would go back out there and learn again that I can't control my drinking. And then when I'm not drinking, I'm miserable. And it did sink in for me eventually that, oh wait, I am like you all. Right? The risk to somebody else making that recommendation, to a sponsor or a mentor making that recommendation, or ordering somebody to do that, is you don't know what's going to happen to this gentleman's point. I would never in a million years advise somebody that I am coaching from a recovery coach perspective, or working with from a recovery perspective. I would never in a million years tell somebody to go back out and drink.
That's a death sentence.
It's a death sentence. Now, if they do, I might ask them if they're fortunate enough to come back. How did the research go?
Ah, yes.
What did you learn? Right? And that, I think, is okay. What's not okay is for the AA police to order somebody like, oh, okay, if you don't think you're one of us, then, go out and do some controlled drinking, see how that works for you. Well, they might not come back.
Yes.
And we can't do anything if we're not alive, right? So, dead people can't get sober. Last time I checked.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on it, Bridge?
Okay, well, my thoughts are the way you described, like how it's written in the book and how you explained it is exactly what that person needed to hear to understand the research. Go do research. Go try some controlled drinking. Understanding that and you taking the time to explain that, the book is meant, well, for me, the book was meant to wake me up. Here's some things I definitely wasn't ready for at least a decade to hear, but I definitely started to open my eyes a little bit. It took me a while.
Yeah.
To what do they mean by that? And I was so buried in denial for protecting myself,
Absolutely.
that I literally would say over and over, I drink because I want to. And I can stop using when I want to.
Whenever I can quit, whenever I want.
Yeah. So, especially if you told me anything, it would make me instinctively want to prove you wrong.
Absolutely.
Whatever that looks like.
Absolutely.
What really is, okay, I'm going to say positive before I get back into this negative time over here. What's beautiful about what you just said in the moment is, I think the way it was written is if I'm reading this by myself, it's like a wake-up call,
That's right.
and I can start thinking about what that means. What upsets me about what he described is that the person he was trusting to mentor him or sponsor him used it almost as a power dynamic and a gaslighting, like a threatening manner, like if you're not going to do it my way, go do it that way.
Yeah.
Is that there's so many things wrong with how that was put before him. As I don't know about you, Charlie, but like the sponsor I have now, and the few before that, definitely, I think I took a liking and a connection with them because they were able to take the time to explain things to me
Yes.
in a loving, caring, empathetic manner. Not sympathetic. I watch pity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take the time to explain what that meant in a way where I didn't feel like threatened
Absolutely.
or dumb. I wouldn't ask questions because I didn't know enough
Right.
to be in these rooms. So what I love and the way I mentor or go through the book with another person, I love to ask the questions. When we read this, what does that jump out to you? What does that say to you?
Right.
And kind of like seeing where they're at already on their path
Yeah.
and just breaking open a conversation. The last thing I'm going to do, is tell them how I did it, and this is what it meant to be, and if you don't align, I don't like that. Go do your research. I hear, go out and see if you live again and come back. I'm not taking that risk.
Nope. No.
And-
And that, to your point, Bridge, is such an important journey I went on when it came to recovery, because I have always learned the best from folks who shared what worked for them and didn't give advice, didn't give orders, didn't tell me what I should or should not do, or what I am or what I'm not. Most people, I dare say, especially folks who are addicts or alcoholics, abhor being told who they are or who they're not, or what they should or should not do, you instantly recoil and want to prove that person wrong. I think that's human nature for sure. And if I've learned anything about myself in terms of my recovery journey, is a lot of what ails me is human nature gone to the extremes, right? So everybody's selfish in some way, shape, or form. I was extremely selfish. Right? Everybody is prideful in some way, shape, or form. I tended to go an extreme version of that. So if somebody is going to tell me what to do, then I'm going to be extreme in my response in terms of, no, I'm not going to do that. No, that's not who I am. And I'm going to prove you wrong. But if you tell me what worked for you, and you share vulnerably about your experience, you share vulnerably about what your life was like before you found recovery, and then you share vulnerably about what your recovery journey's been like, I'm liable to connect with some or many elements of your journey that are same or similar to mine. And then if you start sharing what worked for you, I'm likely to think maybe, just maybe, that will work for me too. Right? That's how I learn. Not by being told what to do, but by you sharing what worked for you.
No shooting all over
That's
yourself?
right. Nope. And no other people shooting all over me. That's not productive generally for my own recovery. It's always been somebody sharing what worked for them. I connect to that and say, I'm going to try that. Right? And not out loud. A lot, especially in the beginning, I was going to tell you out loud that I was going to try that. I was going to try that and not tell anybody.
Okay, remind me to come back, because I really want to just make sure to get through the rest, a couple more of these. Stay on topic of the topic. Remind me to come back and talk about, I have a different perception of how I hear you are not unique.
Oh, interesting.
We
Okay.
need to go back to that,
All right.
because I feel like those dynamics of male, female, whatever you identify as, there's a different space that's not recognized unless you walk through life as a born male or as a born female.
Okay. Okay.
Women's Way shout out to the
Okay.
concept.
All right.
Open me up to
I
that.
love this.
Okay. Even one of my good friends, Jason, still says it in a manner, for whatever reason, I'm hearing it as bridge in the struggles of, you're not unique, you're not special, you're not, I would hear, you're not good enough.
Sure. You're less
You
than.
need to get over yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like where I'm at in my healing journey is, it sounds, the way I say it and the way it sounds to me means something completely different.
That's
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
It is. That's true.
Okay. Oh, and I statements also are helpful.
Yes.
I found that sharing my story, and even in conversations with my friends, I'm really trying to change my brain, and just through language is a mindset and a message in itself. So follow me here.
I love the phrase, before we move on to the next one, I love the phrase, and I use it all the time now. It's been my experience.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
It's been my experience X. It's been my experience Y. Right? And that, for me, then, is so less charged than, this absolute, and you can't argue with it. It's been my experience, and take it for what it's worth.
Yes. Hearing the we and the you,
Yep.
when people share their stories, I'm like, none of that. I didn't connect to
Like,
you.
exactly, like, oh, when you do this, or when you go drink, or when we go drink, or this. No, it's been my experience.
Yes. I think that's when I would start separating myself
You got
and
it.
go further into the denial. And again, it's just, I didn't know what I didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know. However, I think now too, tapping into that, I'm just so thankful that I'm aware of this now,
Yeah.
because it's so, I like to tap back into bridge in the struggle, and being able to how I needed, there's a big difference to me, in my opinion, between listening and hearing.
Yes.
So when you start saying you and we, Bridge
The
just
wall goes
stated
up.
the listening, yeah, tuning out, going this way. When you start talking about me and I, the hearing part can come
That's
in.
it.
That's what I could still remember. Oh, I get goosebumps. There's still certain things, I don't even remember what their names are, I don't remember what they look like, but I could hear the message even when I wasn't ready.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
ready?
I'm
Now
ready.
we're going back
Let's
into
go.
negative town, here we go.
Alright.
I feel like we're getting
back to
positive.
negative town. Okay.
Okay.
By then, I wasn't drinking alcohol. I was doing things like prescription Valium and some cannabis here and there, but really it was mostly just prescription Valium for generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder. So anyways, I get to the 5:30 p.m. evening meeting, and after the meeting's over, it was a pretty cool meeting, and after the meeting was over, my sponsor comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I need to talk to you alone." So then he takes me into this part of the street where there was nobody listening to us. It was away from the other AA members that were outside and chatting kind of the meeting after the meeting. And he said, "Hey, I heard a rumor. I want you to tell me if it's true or not." I said, "Oh, okay. What's that?" And he goes, "I heard you're on the M&M program." And I had never heard of anything called the M&M program. I'm like, what is that, methadone maintenance? And at this point, I hadn't even been addicted to opioids at this point in my addiction. So I said, what is that? And he goes, "Marijuana maintenance." And I said, you're the one that invited me to the AA meeting. You know I haven't been here in months, and I barely smoke weed at all. And even if I smoked it all day, every day, if I'm not drinking, that's a success to me. That's where I currently was in my life back then. And it just felt like this weird, like, grand inquisition, like, grilling me. Like, oh my goodness gracious, am I breaking your program's rules? Like, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. But my...
Okay.
Ooh, I love that.
There's like 3 different things in that.
That's a whole thing.
Take it away.
That's a
Charlie.
whole thing. Look, the reality around the 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, is the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. It doesn't talk about anything else, right? And so there is, however, a huge stigma still in that circle around other types of substances. Marijuana being one of them,
Which is not legal.
which is now legal here in the
Minnesota?
great state of Minnesota. And the reality around where we're at today from a recovery perspective is that harm reduction is proven to be an effective recovery path. And I'm not working my program of recovery if I'm worried about whether you're smoking weed or not.
Correct.
Like that's a telltale sign that I've now strayed off of my spiritual beam
I love that.
because I'm now preoccupied with whether you are or not working your program correctly. And it's none of my business. The best thing I can do in and out of recovery is be the best example of recovery I can be on a daily basis. That's it. Not police other people's recovery, not judge other people's recovery, but be the best example of recovery I can be. I can't do weed and maintain my recovery. That's me. That's very individual. That's very personal. If I do that, there's no question in my mind other things, including alcohol, will come right back in. Right? And so I've demonstrated that to myself over and over that I can't have marijuana as a part of my life. I cannot. Right? But somebody else may be able to do that. And it's not a problem for them. And then why in the world would we ever want to exclude them out of such a life-saving program like Alcoholics Anonymous if indeed it's helping them stay sober? It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So many things. And so true. What's that? What I like to bring up the old quips that were so annoying and now make sense. Watch your own bobber.
That's it.
Again, as a new person, I'm saying I wouldn't ask the questions. I didn't know what that meant. Nobody explained it to me. And so those things were so annoying. However, now, again, they all sink in. Yes, mind your own business.
Absolutely.
It's none of your business. I
Absolutely.
would say to be a study your business, Bridge, what people say about you. And I remember thinking, how's
How
that
is that
possible?
possible?
They're talking about me.
Right.
Isn't that my business?
Isn't that by default my business?
But it's beautiful.
It is.
Because it's now where I sit, it's like what you just said is perfect. If I'm focused on me and my recovery and what I'm doing, my own bobber, my own program, which I do every day, I need that. I don't have time to be pulling someone aside, gossiping rumors, all that, and asking what they're doing. I love, again, that he brought this up, because where I sit now with this space that I'm feeling more confident and whatever, my first question to that person that went to him I would have been like, I would have wanted to bring it back to him with, what does your program look like?
Yeah.
Rumor has it you got too much time on your hands. But what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because the actions that you're taking right now, where I sit now, shows me you're not working on your program.
Correct. Yeah, if I'm
getting off topic.
obsessing about
Sorry.
other people, but if I'm obsessing about other people's programs, that's a telltale sign I have gone astray.
Yes.
Because I've got enough to do to ensure that I'm working my program. That's enough for me. And sometimes it's too much for me still, 10 plus years in. It's all I can do some days still to ensure that I am aligning myself to the principles that I'm aspiring to on a daily basis. If I'm preoccupied with somebody else's recovery program, that's because I probably don't want to work on mine.
Right. And I'm also thinking, if this person has time to be in this rumor mill, they got too much time. And it's like the old saying, you're pointing the A finger.
That's
when
right.
you're pointing it at somebody, you're calling them out, but guess what? There's 3 fingers pointing back
That's
at
it.
myself.
That's it.
And I finally learned about what that all meant. What's beautiful is now I understand when someone's calling me out, pointing something out at me, that means they got a lot going on within themselves they ain't working on.
That's right.
You know?
And I don't know. In fact, I know there is no what we would call conference approved literature that would ever recommend a sponsor saying that,
Correct.
confronting somebody on that. And back to our
Shaming and
you got it.
guilt tripping.
Never. That's not in the literature, I guarantee it.
Horrendous. Yes.
In the 12-step program, folks share their experience, strength, and hope. I don't hear advice in there. I don't hear confrontations in there. Now, if somebody comes up to me in confidence shares that they've been going to AA and they are also on marijuana, I would ask them how they feel that's working for them.
Yes.
Right? And often, and in recovery coaching, I will say, if alcohol is the giant problem, let's take care of that first.
I like that.
Let's work on the giant problem first. It's sort of like if my house is on fire, but also I haven't mowed my lawn in 3 weeks. I'm probably going to put out the house fire first
Right.
before I mow my lawn.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Probably.
You're right.
Yeah. So same thing here. If you've got a massive alcohol problem and you also smoke weed, let's maybe work on the alcohol problem first. And then we can address other issues as we need to.
Right. Okay, let me stop you right there. And that conversation, for me, wouldn't even come in unless somebody asked me
Sure.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, it would have to be that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, I feel like my brain likes to pick and choose different themes or conversations, things you're saying. I'm hearing other things on a different self-judgment thing. So I think what stood out to me as you were saying that, thinking about Old Bridge, I would be hearing too many things at one time. I think what I like that you just pointed out, like if you're having a conversation with someone you're mentoring or has asked you to guide them,
Yeah.
I like that you're like offering another way for them to think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what, okay, so when I hear one of my spots say it's something that I feel a flag up, I know the first thing Bridget back in the day does not want to hear is don't do that, Bridge. Don't be dating.
Yes.
Let's not jump into this other addiction or obsessive craving stuff.
Yeah.
This was very quickly for me to stop doing one thing and jump into another, especially legal ones.
Right. Right.
And I love how you brought that, like, okay, well, I wanted to make sure for myself that I make sure that the person I'm working with, that's your path.
Absolutely.
And it's going to look like what it's going to look like. I'm going to keep being here to support you and get curious about it. And I want to also continue to give that focus on the first thing that we're talking about too, bringing it back. I know that, okay, well, I'll just give an example. I need to be specific because being vague just confuses myself. I loved when this happens, someone I'm mentoring, she'll tell the same things I did is, oh, I'm in a new relationship. And the first thing I want to say, especially when it's 3 months, whatever, girl, don't do that. Stop. However, I've learned now through my experiences, I've gotten better now. I'm like, how do I say stuff? Watch out. I'll say, oh, how's that going?
Yeah.
I'm sponsored like how my sponsor sponsored me.
That's it.
Charlie, I did that, okay? I was in
love that.
treatment. I got into a relationship.
Yep.
And here's what my beautiful sponsor, Marty, did. She goes, because I had already gotten shit from my therapist and the counselor, all kinds of things. I already knew the lecture was coming. She didn't do that, though. She said, nice. She goes, Bridge, oh, how's that going?
I love that.
You like him? Okay.
I love that.
I left it there.
I love that.
She's so wise who did that.
I love that.
Because she did that, though, I knew I was okay to continue to talk about the relationship dynamic
You got it.
where no one else I felt safe to share that. Even though I knew they were trying to help me, like whatever. But like what I think what works my sponsor and what I do is that, okay, I hear you, I'm here, and I'm not gonna judge you, and you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and then what she would do is like, okay, cool. Now, how are you in the reading? How's that going?
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
And shifted, but she's so
Shift
wise.
at work. Yep.
She took a mental note of that.
Yep.
And she's aware, she kept checking up on that. And of course, that's but now I feel comfortable telling her it wasn't going so well.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and without asking for a lecture, she still just put her like little things in, and it worked out so beautifully. My sponsor, she is such the person that like I needed the way she communicates. I needed that unconditional love and support.
Yes.
I feel like at 17 years of the struggle, I didn't even know that that's what I needed, that connection.
Yeah.
That genuine connection. I was able to finally hear the messages
Yes.
that do mean well. They're written very well, and unfortunately through other people's negative experiences come out a certain way. I think even this guy that's sponsoring him or whatever, his intentions are well.
Absolutely.
He's trying to, but that's all he knows. That's one way.
Yep.
And that's why one of the many unwritten rules, but one of them is you don't have to have your sponsor. That's it forever. This guy, I'm proud of him. He took the courage. You fired him. You don't have to do that either.
No.
However, like you don't have to just have one sponsor either.
Nope.
Like as a person that I've held so much in, I have so much going on. I need multiple mentors and perspectives and male and female sponsors. I have one of each.
Yeah.
And that perspective has helped me in so many ways. I have a twin brother.
Yeah.
You know, like I love my Marcy, and I love that just compassionate, loving dynamic. I also need Wally. He's that like male perspective that for me, I need that. You get straight to the point.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. He's also not a judgmental lecturing kind of person.
Yeah.
And he loves to answer all my questions.
I love that.
You know?
I love that.
So-
and I think, just like so many things, it takes a village.
Yes. A community.
Yes.
A tribe.
Yes. And when we tap into that community and we're finding folks that we relate to and that we are inspired by and that we feel safe around, that's when we can heal. That's when we can grow. When you talk about these other, what AA would call outside issues, right?
Yeah.
The reality is for me, I had to come to a point with many things. Weed, alcohol, nicotine,
Oh, yes.
where I understood on a cellular level that it was no longer serving me. And it was time to let it go. And that's when I can move on from those things. And I didn't do it all at once. And I'm glad I didn't do it all at once. I smoked and vaped for 18 months, I think, after I entered recovery this last time. And I knew when I was ready to be done with it. And I over consumed sugar for years.
Yeah.
And there was people in recovery that kept telling me, give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, and understand that if you are curious and you are willing to ask my favorite question in recovery, which is, why does this make sense?
I like that.
It'll come to a point that's been my experience where I'm ready to let that go. I'll notice that I am over consuming sugar and I can ask myself, why does this make sense? Oh, I'm stressed.
Yes. I love this.
Oh, it's a time of year that's difficult for me because there's been a lot of loss in my life. Okay. And I want safety, I want comfort, I want escape. So if I can continue to ask myself that question, why does this make sense? It allows me to unpack it a little bit and say, is this what I need in this moment? Or is this just what my brain knows how to do?
That's beautiful. I just had an aha moment too. While you were talking, my brain does this. This was continuously, when there's an open loop, continuously, and thinking about what you do and the spaces up. So I think the aha moment for me was, if it depends on the environment that I'm in, right?
Absolutely.
The hat that I'm wearing that day, that environment.
Absolutely.
So if we want to keep it relevant to what this guy, or if I want to keep it relevant to what this guy was talking about in that dynamic, if we're talking about, okay, I met you, you want me to mentor or sponsor you, all I know is how I made the steps work for me
Yeah.
on whatever, okay, I have many multiple substance use disorder things, but let's just say alcohol. So if I meet somebody who came in and they asked me to go through the steps with them,
Yep.
with that, that's the hat I wear in that relationship with that. And so what you
Yeah.
said is beautiful is, okay, you have these things, and what you signed me up for or asked me about support with, I wanted, what was the way you said it?
Why does this make sense?
Before that, you want to give the alcohol, you want to give that bring the focus back to that. You said something I'd like to tell you. The importance.
Yeah, so let's focus on what is the biggest problem at the moment, right? And so if I've
Yes.
got a massive alcohol problem and I'm drinking 1.5 liters of vodka a day and I also smoke weed,
Yeah.
let's address the massive alcohol problem first. Let's put the house fire
Right.
out.
Yes, that's what I hear now. I like the fire analogy with the lawn too.
Okay.
I think that's where it clicked. Is like, I just need to remind both of us here. I'm thinking out loud. I'm not sure I can follow you on the steps for whatever else you're doing there.
Yep.
You want me to help you in this space of whatever alcohol.
Yeah,
It's just
whatever
alcohol.
whatever the addiction
I feel
is.
confident in leading you on the steps that I took, and that's where I would like to. I feel confident supporting you on,
Absolutely.
or walking through with you, and I want that's all that I'm able to. And the other things, like, I don't want to distract from my capability on that. I can't guarantee anything with that.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
'Cause,
And
yeah.
it's funny you talk about sponsors that will want to tell you not to be in a relationship for a year, and I did that. Okay, I did that. Not because my sponsor told me to. He recommended it, but he didn't tell
Suggestion.
me. He just suggested it. He's like, I ain't gonna tell you what to do, but might be a good idea not to be in a relationship for a year. Right?
Consider
Okay.
it.
Consider that. You know, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. And I was so grateful to have a sponsor that wasn't a tell you what to do kind of guy. He was, this is what it looked like for me. And, you know, I'm going to make some recommendations based on, you know, my experience and what you share. You take what you want and leave the rest.
Yes. Ding.
What I tell folks is, are you ready to run an experiment?
Yes.
That's it.
Love that.
Like, are you ready to run an experiment? We're just going to run an experiment together. We're going to work these 12 steps in order to the best of our ability, and we're going to see what happens. And that's what we're doing here.
That's
And
fantastic.
That's it. Let's run an experiment and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I am not a marriage counselor. Okay? I am not a relationship coach. I am not a financial advisor.
Right.
Okay? And I tell people that all the time. Not a marriage counselor, not a relationship counselor, not a financial coach, okay? Not a family counselor.
Right.
It's not what I am.
I'm not HR.
Nope.
It's your
Yeah,
job.
but I'm not a professional coach. Right?
Right.
I am going to walk along with you on a path of recovery. And I'm going to share what worked for me. And that's it. The rest of it, I'm willing to hear, and I'm willing to bend it, be an ear to bend around those things. It's not like I'm telling you can't talk about them.
Right.
Talk about them. And I'm going to share my own experience around it, but I am not in any way, shape, or form going to give any advice on any of that stuff.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay, here's what I also heard. Here's that moment. When you said that, let's do this experiment. You know what I heard? What I heard, not listen to. What I heard was, you have a choice.
That's it.
That's what I needed to hear. I get
it.
the choice.
Got it.
You know?
Yes.
The minute I feel like you're telling me what to do, I get no choice in how I'm going to live my life.
That's it.
Boom.
I'm
all
out. I'm out. I'm out.
Let's do an experiment.
Are
Me, I'm
you
hearing,
ready
I
to
get
run?
the choice.
That's it. That's it. Are
Well,
you ready to
experiments are
run
safe.
an experiment to see what happens?
Are you willing?
That's it.
You ready?
That's
It's
it.
like an adventure.
That's it. And you can say no, and I say fine.
Okay.
That's okay not to be ready.
Right.
That's okay too.
Maybe next week.
Maybe yeah, exactly. Maybe next time we meet you, that. But really,
But it's on the table.
that's it.
You know, we talked about it.
That's it.
Obviously, that
Anytime.
person brought it up for a reason. And as a person that cares about this work, peer support and recovery and being with my community here and this program, these steps that I love and live in, believing in that,
Yeah.
like I'm I'm packaging that here, and I'm keeping this here for you. I will carry that with me.
Yes.
And I want to take
Yes.
on as much as I can, but there's a beautiful word called boundaries, too.
All right, I want to talk about the terminal uniqueness.
Okay. And yeah, maybe we are running
Because we are,
time.
yep. So let's talk about terminal uniqueness,
And we can finish this
and
up
we will,
later.
and we will. We're gonna come back to this,
I'm just
but
gonna, it's killing
I'll
my battery.
forget,
Yes. I want to. It's killing my battery.
and I don't want to forget. So I relate to that term, terminal uniqueness now, but I didn't in the beginning, and many of the folks that listen to the Way Out podcast know that I had a experience in recovery in my teenage years, and then another experience in recovery in my early 20s, with definitely not recovery in between. And I heard a lot of these 12-step isms.
That's a great word.
And one of them was, he's terminally unique. What are you, terminally unique? And I would recoil at that because
Yes.
I am unique. Everybody's unique.
Yes.
We're all different. And I felt different my whole life.
Yes.
I felt different than you. I believed I was different than you. And I reinforced unknowingly that belief over and over and over again. And coming into recovery this last time around, 10 plus years ago, that's one of the things that was a big aha moment, was I'm way more alike than I am different from you all. But I had to come to that understanding.
Right.
I had to come to the understanding that I am like you people. And this belief that I was so different. So different that if I told you who I really was, you wouldn't like me.
Right.
You wouldn't want to hang around with me. You would reject me. Right? And that was the fear there, is what I've done and how I've behaved is irredeemable and you will reject me, right? Okay, so then I understood the meaning of terminal unique. Because if I keep myself separate from you and I keep saying I'm not like you, then why would I want what you have? Why would I want this recovery program if I ain't like you? Okay? And so that's how I come to understand that. And it was a big aha moment. Like, okay, if I continue to reinforce this idea that I'm so different than you, then I'm not going to want what you have. And so it's important for me to understand that fundamentally we have so much more in common with each other as human beings, and especially those of us who have struggled with a substance use disorder. We have far more in common than we do that separate us. That said, we do have things that are different, and they deserve to be recognized and honored. Why we have women's groups, why we have men's groups, why we have LGBTQIA plus groups, why we have groups like that. Because there are differences among us, and those differences should be honored and celebrated.
Yes.
Yeah? What do you hear and think about when you think about, or when you hear that terminal uniqueness?
Well, like how you first said it, when that person came, you heard it the first time, even in I hear things that probably don't exist. I want you to repeat it. When that person said that to you, or you heard them say that about you, ooh, you're terminally unique. Whatever, say it again.
I am unique. We're all unique.
No, the way that person said it to you originally, oh, he's,
Oh,
how did that?
you're terminally unique.
Yeah. How did you feel? Because I'm already hearing it, how I've still hear it actually. originally? How did you
Absolutely.
hear it when you first heard it? Like new coming in. How did you interpret that?
I interpreted it as a judgment and a um, a condemnation about who I was. Because at the time I was doing the best that I could with what I had at the time.
Right.
Like I was not ready. And part of me wanted to be ready. And part of me didn't think I was like you people. Like, it just didn't really think I was an alcoholic or an addict. Thought I had addict and alcoholic tendencies, and certainly it caused problems in my life, but I wasn't convinced yet that I was truly an addict and alcoholic.
Okay, squirrel mine's about to jump off.
Yep.
Ready?
Go.
Okay, back in. Okay. What you just said, you're right. Like when I heard that said to me, like, "Ooh, you're unique," or "You think you're unique, you think you're special, you think you're different." I heard judgment. I heard, "You think you're better than us? You
Right.
think you know more?"
Yeah.
That's what
Yep.
sick
Yep.
and
Yep.
and suffering bridge hurt.
Yep.
It still bothers me to
Yeah.
this point because I still hear it the way my other friend, I won't say his name yet, says it. And in the male, I don't know if it's a male or female thing, really, it's a human thing. For how I grew up, I would say I'm on a different side of the spectrum where when I came in the rooms, I knew I wasn't special.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't shit. I didn't matter to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I don't even deserve to be in these rooms. I don't even feel qualified enough to sit in this meeting and share my story. That's how lost I was as I didn't human being. Like I didn't even feel like a human being. I had lost all hope and all light. So when I would hear something like that, that was me hearing saying, "Go away. You don't belong." And it broke me. And I think when I was finally starting to listen and hear and open, that how honesty, open-minded willingness. I thought I was being honest. I thought I was being open. I think what saved me was the willingness to be willing.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I didn't realize how close off I was.
100%.
Now, it's sunk in one of my women's meetings. We were in the book and talking about it. I think how it was meant to be. This is what I want to believe. This is what I believe. Is how when it was written, it was meant to be. You're not unique, and you're not alone.
Yes.
And all that pain and suffering you had,
Yes.
you weren't alone in it.
Yep.
We understand.
We get it.
You're not unique, and you don't have to suffer anymore.
That's right.
So when I say it to somebody else, it gets me emotional. That's all right. It makes me emotional because I want it to come out from my heart, meaning you don't have to be alone anymore. You're not unique in the sense of like all the things, the pain, the suffering, the questions, the pushing back, the things that still aren't answered for you. You're not unique.
That's it.
A lot of us, I like this saying, we walk in that room. We're all on the same level.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter the labels, the job positions, where your experience is, how many years you got. None of that should matter.
Nope.
Should matter. You know what I'm saying? Shouldn't. What matters is we're here on the same level, and you're not unique in the sense of you're not alone. You won't be unique in us understanding what real pain and suffering and not getting it is like. You know what I mean?
I love that. And you could say it in another way, the way that you just described that. You're not terminally unique can be also said as you can recover too.
Yeah.
You can recover too.
Yeah.
And I was convinced for a long time that I couldn't. I was convinced for a long time that recovery was for you, not for me. And that I was unable to get it. That I just didn't get it. And part of that was my unwillingness, but also part of it was my lack of humility at the time, thinking that spirituality and recovery was for weak people.
Interesting.
Yep. And so that's why I think too that you talk about the
Great.
yeah.
This is great to talk about it because
Yeah.
it's like as your walk of life born male
Yep.
and
That's
my
it.
walk of life, it's like I'm so on the other side of that line, spectrum, whatever you want to call it. Because like I also, it was like I wanted that spirituality. I wanted some power.
Yeah.
I wanted some feeling of control and safety in my life.
Sure. Sure.
So I felt like did all the things. I'm doing all the things it's telling me to do. It's not working. It's me. It's my fault. What I struggle with a lot of the terminology and how it's just perceived or misperceived in the big book is it's my ego. It's my fault. I need to break myself down. I need to like get more humility. For me, it was hard to understand that because I was so broken my whole life. How much lower you want me to go? I just crave, like, it was, for me, it wasn't getting over myself. Are you ready for this one?
Yep.
It was fucking finding myself.
Yeah.
I needed to find myself. I needed to find something to lift me up and discover that it was all within me in the first place. And I have always known that spirituality is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think when I got to that breaking point was I had felt so unworthy and so lost that I didn't deserve forgiveness and I didn't deserve to talk to any higher power. I felt unworthy to even ask anymore because what I had been trying wasn't working and I didn't want to waste my higher power creator's time anymore.
Oh, I love that.
I was terminally gonna be to my grave. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, and I want to talk about the Women's Way because I have not been exposed to that, but I've heard amazing things about it. When you talk about your journey and what that then was like for you when you were introduced to a lot of these old school and effective for many people concepts that come out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step recovery is such an important thing to talk about. And in the broader context, women's recovery rates are lower, right, by percentage. And there's some fundamental differences around how alcohol affects women's bodies.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
I
from a
love the science.
physiological perspective,
Yes.
so having some literature and some language that speaks to women in a way that is productive and helpful, I love all of that. I mean, the Big Book was written primarily by men, right? And for me, being fiercely independent, which I learned is a trauma response, that makes sense to me based on my own journey. I was fiercely independent. I didn't need you. I didn't need God. And I certainly didn't need some 12-step program. I didn't need any of that. I got this. I got this. I have to have this because I've learned that I can't depend on you.
Right.
I can't depend on anybody else, and God failed me too. And so if I can't do this by myself, I'm in real trouble because I've already learned I can't trust any of you.
Right.
And I can't trust God. So it's got to be me and only me. And so that fierce independence often comes with, and for me certainly did, a mega attachment to my ego. Because I need a big ego in order to be able to depend only on me. I need a big old ego in order to get through all by myself.
I want to write this down, but I realize we're recording, so I'm going to track back. I love
So
that.
this big ego has got to be, right? And I've got to ensure that I am always taking inventory of everybody else because you're a threat to me. Right? And I need to ensure that I've got your risk calculated in terms of what you mean in my survival and my overall ability to be able to get through this life. And so big character defects like resentment come along with that, right? Because I've got a big old ego, and if you attack that ego, I'm going to have a big old resentment because I need this ego. It's pretty much all I got. And alcohol and drugs and these other things, right? And so the program language around my ego, certainly not to being my amigo, was important for me. And to be able to let go of an ego that, by the way, in many ways saved my life. It got me.
Yeah.
It got me through. It hurt me. It hurt other people. It was damaging to relationships. But ultimately, I did survive.
Yes.
I survived. And so the program then in 12 steps began to show me how these character defects were at the center of my misery, were at the center of my suffering. And that if I wanted to be able to truly find joy, happiness, serenity, purpose, and meaning, that I needed to understand that my terminal uniqueness had to go away, and I had to reconcile with the fact that I am like you all. I do drink like you. I do think like you. I do feel like you. And I do want to get better. And one of those ways that I get better is by practicing humility, practicing forgiveness, practicing being right-sized, not less than.
Right.
Right-sized, right? But for many women, I think, share your experience. And if they hear language around, you're not unique, right? Well, maybe you just haven't done enough research yet, right? Those kinds of condemnations that can feel like probably condemnations, right? And very shaming and judgmental, that ends up being a block.
Well, for men too. I mean, it was the ban on the video.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I would also argue it's if you really feel it and believe it and understand it so deeply that that energy comes out. It's a person that I can feel that. When he talks about the big book thumpers, the AA police, they're so about the rules and how they think of this and that. I can feel like, do they even know what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Are they actually hearing what they're saying out loud, or are they brainwashed?
Wow, okay. Maybe there's some of
I
that.
consider a big book thumper. Here's the funny part, okay? I carried my book around
Yeah.
because I loved writing the
Me
notes
too, yeah.
and and I thought I was the big book thumper. I think I was in a sense. However, I've always taken what I've heard or read or whatever and liked to experiment and make it my own.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, there's so much in the book that is beautiful and I love to share. I think the way he says it though, and is brilliant, is what I've noticed is there's someone who might have 10 years. They can quote page number and the exact paragraph.
Chapter and verse.
They know it in and out. However, where I can, this is what's scary with the new people coming in, I can gauge, do they even understand what they're talking about?
Yeah.
It's like their brain is triggered by something they heard at the beginning. Oh, now I'm going to cheer about this. And I'm like, I can gauge, like, do they actually understand what they're repeating? That, to me, is the thumpers.
Absolutely.
They're just thumping. They're just going with what they've been taught and learned, that they're not ready to break out of the box.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful now, it's always been like a double-edged sword kind of. I've never been in a box ever. Black sheep it up.
Yeah.
And I think, survivor mode, I learned early on you can't trust anybody. I don't trust what you tell me at face value.
Yep.
Right? I'm watching how you walk, and I'm listening to how you talk, and it's only then when I respect what you're doing, I want what you have, and I
That's it.
see you in action doing what you're talking about, those things line up,
That's it.
I'm gonna follow you.
That's it.
It's those the thumpers that come in and they're walking and talking, they matching up, something's off.
That's it.
Trust out the door.
That's it.
And I tune out.
Only when I truly believe that you are like me do I want what you have. Hard
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Only when I truly believe that you are like me, then and only then do I want any of what you have. And it took a long time for recovery to get from here to here.
Yes.
A long time for me. Because I had to understand on a cellular level that I was like you. And once I understood that and believed that I could get better too, that's when everything changed for me. And I only was able to understand that I was like you if you were willing to share from a very honest and vulnerable place. The things that you are not going to tell most people. How you felt. Not as much what you did. That stuff didn't. But how did you feel? And when I understood that you felt like I felt and found a way to get better, then I was willing to believe just maybe,
Yeah.
just maybe I can get better too.
But we,
If I do what you do.
we need that connection piece first.
That's it. We have
I
to.
gotta say we
Yes.
can't tell with the I for because we know each other. It's
Yes,
that safe
yeah,
space.
for sure.
Yes, that connection piece.
Yes.
That's what opens up. I think right now, though, the only way to get there, I've learned when I'm working with anyone, is I spend a lot of time listening,
Yeah.
asking questions, and just letting. I find that most of my work is just listening.
Yeah.
Because I never had that space
Yeah.
to openly talk to someone who's
Not-
understands,
not
is not
gonna
gonna judge me. Yep.
It's a safe
And
space.
actually takes the time to listen, to hear me,
Yeah.
not listen to fix me.
That's it. Oh, I love that. And we just had an episode with Killian No. So you got to check it out if you haven't yet, because she is the director of Recovery Cafe National.
Okay.
And
Ooh.
she's amazing. And I always get at least one big aha moment, truth bomb
Yeah.
from every episode that I do. And she said one of her mentors, spiritual mentors, told her, Killian, don't spend too much time trying to fix people. Don't spend too much time trying to fix everybody else up. We ain't going to be perfect by the time this is all over. In fact, it's likely
Not even
our
close.
character defects are going to be dancing on our graves. Okay? After we die. They're going to be dancing a jig on our graves when we die. Let's focus our time on accepting each other as we are. Because we heal the most when we are accepted, known, and loved for who we are in this moment.
Beautiful.
That's when we heal. That's when we are afforded the opportunity to know that this is a safe space. And no matter what happens, going forward, I'm known and I'm loved. And shout out to Killian No for that amazing revelation around recovery, because that's what we all want.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, it's like hearing that, it's like, oh, I can take this mask off here.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And maybe this one too. Oh, wow. You know, like this, those layers of masks I was wearing was so heavy.
That's it.
And we're going to end it because I got to get to my other thing. One thing I want to leave it on the table for next time, if you're down or anyone's down, is my new thing is instead of, what is it they say? Progress makes.
Progress, not perfection.
Correct. And now the new thing I like is practice gets to progress. Wait, how does it go? Something like, no, what is it? It's progress. The original one is like
Progress, not perfection. Right? Is that one?
something similar to that. And now I realize I don't like the word perfect needs to out of my vocabulary.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Because, like, I
Yes.
love what your friend that you just shared. I gotta find that. Because that's beautiful. Like, this is never gonna be perfect.
Nope.
We're not meant to be the creator.
Nope.
We're not meant to be this perfect human being. That's not the point.
That's
At our
not-
school here, I want to learn the lessons. I want to level up. And I would love to, like, perfect is gone. Practice makes progress, Charlie.
Oh, I like that.
I gotta
Practice
write it
makes
down.
progress. Okay, I
That's
love
right.
that. Practice makes progress.
But I
I
might not
love
be ready
that.
for progress yet. You know, I need some healing.
All right, for sure. And I'm going to tell you right now that when it comes to this idea of loving each other as we are and understanding that really what I'm trying to do here is not be perfect and is not be like recovery inspiration porn that, you know, I've arrived at some sort of, you know, a vaulted spiritual and recovery high place and my life is just bliss. That's bullshit.
Yes.
What I'm trying to do is continually recognize the things that are getting in the way of me loving myself and other people. That's it. Like, what's getting in the way of me loving other people, of loving myself? And I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to love the best the way I can.
That's good enough.
That's good enough.
Okay. We're going to end it and we'll be back. Or you're leaving. You should do a little individual solo thing. I got
To be determined.
Okay.
To be determined. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.